Firstly, take me into your world of retail loss prevention, because it's come a long way from the old store detective.
For 16 years, loss prevention wise, I've come from Meyer and David Jones. I was the manager of Burke Street and David Jones, which is a $200 million store. Lots of resources, big loss prevention team, standalone store. Then I came back west to Star Retail Group, which is a multi-site, four-business company with over 90 stores and 1,200 employees, and I'm the only dedicated loss prevention resource in the whole company. So, funnily enough though, the philosophies that I've learnt in the previous 14 or so years, I barely missed a beat, and the philosophies revolved around doing some groundwork, which is normally six weeks of risk assessment of the business, establishing short-term, mid-term and long-term goals, which do change, and making contacts with all the key stakeholders and getting out into the field. Actually, it was almost a surprise to me how easy the transition was, because I basically went from a fixed store to living out of a car, but the process itself was very streamlined. My philosophy also is to engage the staff, obviously, push up through the stores, the frontline staff engage, because they are more receptive and malleable to loss prevention. And then as the success and the results flow up to the senior management, then that's when they start to, that's when you start to win the hearts and minds of the senior management, and they start to, eventually after a period of time, they start to change their perception of what the loss prevention / security / risk management role can actually bring to the business.
You've heard us talk about a number of subjects today. One of them, I suppose I'm interested with loss prevention, is just that image of the loss prevention industry. That's surely changed as well, hasn't it?
We haven't helped ourselves. We've come from that archaic, you know, we're the dog guarding the sheep sort of thing, and our role is clearly defined, and we'll just get on catching shoplifters and doing our little audits, and we haven't engaged the staff nearly enough, or the management. But now the modern day loss prevention is, like I said, it's going out into the field, it's identifying the potential and basically turning that potential over time with guidance into a key asset for the company. And throughout my 16 years, although I've gained skills, loss prevention skills, investigative skills, interviewing skills and paperwork and all that, but the communication skills, it's actually driven me to be a better communicator. That's been the most outstanding development in my personal growth across the period, and I've managed to translate that into winning over frontline staff. Loss prevention retail basically translates over every area of the business. So I basically have a hand in every facet of the business, so I can link up with basically buyers, sellers, contractors. I can cross-bridge relationships. As long as you have that, you do that work prior, and you do a risk assessment of the company, and you keep on evolving your strategies and procedures and so forth.
I was doing some research recently on retail loss prevention, and it was remarkable the amount of information there is on YouTube on how to defeat loss prevention systems and how to be a more effective shoplifter. How do you keep ahead of these trends?
In the past, if you had, say, for instance, a high theft store or area or department, the temptation for loss prevention would be to go in there and basically make the staff paranoid about shoplifters. The modern day loss prevention would go into that same environment and basically lay out a step-by-step sales-based process that would control external theft. So what we've basically done is we've taken the focus off the shoplifter, who we more often than not have little control, and we've focused in on the process, which more often than not will have the ultimate control. That's how we mitigate shoplifting.
The other side is not just the shoplifters coming in, there's the internal problem. What does your business tell other businesses about insider threat or tackling insider problems?
my philosophy is process is best. So basically, effective process can mitigate and ultimately control all aspects of business loss. And I seek to prove that out in the field and in the back office, day after day, month after month. If people know what the process is and you can engage them to follow that process, then ultimately the results will flow to the bottom line.
Earlier on we heard from someone from the university talking about how the universities all collaborate, same with the water board people. Is there a level of collaboration between loss prevention professionals?
Personally, I don't collaborate. I do attend forums with run by the police and other retailers are there, but the philosophy of the company philosophy is we aim to insulate ourselves better against external theft than the opposition. So as long as you're confident that you can do that, there is no need, unless there is an incentive to engage with other retailers, then there is no need to go outside.
What would an incentive look like?
Basically people who are, for Perth, who are habitual criminals, shoplifters, fraudsters. I would actually buy into that, and I could get my general manager to buy into it. But like I mentioned earlier, that it has to come from the police. The police have to act as a third party, and then that system could work.
So I'll make you police commissioner for a minute. How would you institute something like that?
You need to start with an information base that the police would have to maintain, and then obviously they have to put passwords over so only people with access could get into it, and we could download information about scammers. We've got a pretty serious counterfeit fraud going on in WA at the moment with $50 notes. If we could download that, because most retailers have got the CCTV, they've got the digital IP cameras, they can take close-up photos. We have the time and the resources to give this information to a central data bank, and we would love, and I'll go out on a limb and speak for the other retailers, we would love to be able to see basically the same people ripping everyone else off, so then we could get together and go and take it to the police and get these people charged. The concept is exciting, but at the moment I think it's still some way off. I couldn't tell you how far off it is, but it really, for me, it depends on the police, because we're basically ready to go. We've got all the data, we've got all the footage.
The immediate problem that strikes me in my mind, and I've had this discussion with people with major retail groups as well, the problem of privacy and information sharing. How do you overcome that, do you think?
To be sensitive, it's not a witch hunt. We're based purely on facts, and it has to be controlled by the police. Access has to be controlled. Only people with security clearance, for instance, from the retailing company would have access, so that way we can maintain a professional standard. There'd be some teething problems, but I believe that we could quickly overcome any teething problems.
Do you see that working across the nation?
It seems so simple in theory, but when you put it to a table of retailers and police, you can sense that there's hurdles to be passed, and it's going to take time. But I do sense that the retailers are the lower hurdles.
Again, it's that connection Arthur was making earlier on. We've got to start connecting the dots between what's happening in your world, what's happening in terrorism, what's happening in fraud. We've got to start joining these dots somehow.
The retailers won't voluntarily help each other because they're competitors, and boards are run by sales and executives, they're not run by security and loss prevention. But then there's the back door for us, because I could go to my general manager and argue if it was a secure system that we can help the police, and he would say, go for it.
I actually used to work in retail when I first finished school, and I do remember with training you do learn about loss prevention and theft and things like that. I actually worked on Burke Street for a while, and during my time there we did have a bomb threat, and it just sent the street into a panic. And what I'm wondering is there more that can be done between the retailers and maybe the security industry to make these sort of things a little bit more at ease for the staff? You know, there are a lot of young staff in those places that obviously felt quite scared during that time, and you know, working in retail, you're not actually taught anything about what to do in those instances. If someone was to walk into a shopping centre with a gun, you know, we're not actually taught anything about that if you do work in retail. Is there anything that can be done, you know, between retailers and the security industry to do something about that?
You bring up a good point, because first to your question about can we do more, we can, and that's a process breakdown. And it's obviously there's not enough testing of that process. So the other problem is that something like teaching people what to do in the event of an armed hold-up can fall squarely between loss prevention and human resources or another department. So you find that there's a handball going on, and what happens is that the information falls through the cracks, and people have maybe only partially trained or advised on that procedure. There should be a clear and definite body taking control of that procedure.
As a provider providing retail security to over 100 shopping centres in Australia, I think there's a lot more that can be done in the area of retail education. We do it. It's a bit ad hoc. It's based on the centre and the proactiveness of the centre management. But certainly we're one of our largest providers. We recently had what we call a partnership meeting. It wasn't just us, it was other providers to that company. And one of the suggestions I made was that we should roll out programs, not just to the retail staff, but we're doing it in Melbourne, for example, with cleaners that work in the centres that we're engaged in, so that I think there's a lot more that can be done formally.
Talk to each other about using social media for that.
Just something on that, just a final point. So I find that staff, if you can, and it's not just loss prevention, but it's also in the sales, if you can go to a staff member and give them the feedback and give them some guidance and set them some goals, then suddenly they know their place in the organisation. I mean, I know that I've felt at times, I've had senior roles and I've sort of thought that I've been doing a good job, but I didn't know where I stood. And I think that's prevalent in the retail industry, and I think it might be prevalent in other industries. So, and I think that feedback and me going to you and saying, how are you? You know, my name's Darren and I'm a support function, and what can I do to help you? That instantly gives you buy-in, and you'd be surprised at what they say. And they might say something, oh, you know, I've been this door handle's been broken for 6 weeks and nobody's fixed it. I'm just giving up, and then you go and fix it, and suddenly they're engaged. I mean, it could be something as simple as that. It could be something more complex, but as long as it's cost effective and it gives you that buy-in, then suddenly you've got a warrior who's going to listen to.
One thing I've always admired in the security industry is casinos and how they're highly competitive, cutthroat, yet their security element is amazing when it comes to sharing information, and they've become renowned for their ability to do it in ways that are sensitive, as you were talking about. However, they communicate the latest scams. They know the players throughout the world that are the ones causing the problems, the loss of money, the emerging threats and so on. Is that a model that retail has looked at in being able to build forums that eventually create so much weight in themselves that the police have no opportunity but to then come in and start partaking in?
Well, I'll just say briefly on the casinos, they don't have any competitors in their own state, so they may have a bit of a relaxed, so the police can deal directly with them, and they're not threatened by any competitors. So yes, I think the casinos could teach us a thing or two about disclosure. Obviously, they would have privacy. Their privacy processes will be maybe higher than most retailers. So yes, I think that the retail industry as a whole could benefit from how the casinos get the information and share the information.